Welcome to my studio. Thanks for dropping by. Today I will be sharing with you a few of my tips for working with colored pencils on black paper. If this is the type of video that interests you, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out. Whilst going over my tips, I will be drawing a charcoal pencil shell I completed using Prismacolor colored pencils on Strathmore Artigan paper. Be sure to stick around so you don't miss a few of the bonus tips sprinkled throughout this video. If you want your piece to pop, then you should definitely consider using my first tip. Use opaque pencils for the first layers. Pencils like Luminance and Prismas work great for the first layers on black paper since they are such an opaque pencil. Pencils like Polychromos are a bit more transparent and are good for fading into the black and tinting already applied opaque layers. That being said, remember, you are working on black paper, so your colors will end up being less saturated overall than if you were to work on a lighter or white paper. So if you want your subject to really pop out of that black paper, then this bonus tip is for you. Use white paper. Yep, you heard me right. Use white paper to render your main subject and then use black for the background. Two of my favorite ways to do this is with the Stabilo All Black Pencil or Pan Pastels using masking film to protect the subject areas prior to rendering. There are many other ways to get your paper black, such as paint, ink, pencils, and the list goes on. Experiment and see what works best for you. My second tip will also help make your art pop just a bit more on black paper, and that is to use a lighter color underneath your top layers. What I mean by this is, let's say you want a medium brown as your top layer. Use a lighter version of that color, such as tan or maybe even a warm gray. I have seen white or cream used a lot for this, but remember, when you layer your colors, they do begin to mix. The last thing you want to do is create, say, pink when you are supposed to be having red. So really consider the color to put in your underlayers for this technique. Use colors that will not change the color in your final layers too much, if at all. And here's another bonus tip. If you're trying to make your red pop, depending upon the final color you want, try using yellow or orange as your underlayer. White or cream is great for yellows and oranges as underlayers. Alternatively, you could use white, then yellow or orange, and then red. So lots of options with this technique. Give them a go and see which one works best for you. The third tip when working with black paper is change your techniques. Since your darks are already established, you don't need to worry about hitting those darkest darks. Instead, you're going to consider how you're going to get to the brightest brights. This is where tip 1 and 2 come into play. When I work on white or light colored paper, I don't really worry that much about how I layer or which pencil brand to use because I can usually adjust darker or lighter as I work. When working on black paper, you are basically just going lighter all the time. Once you get your initial layers and map in, you will go back and forth a bit more. But it is a completely different way of layering and mindset when working with black paper. Now, my fourth tip may have many who disagree, but for me, it is key to making a successful piece on black paper. Not all images or references are suited for black paper. So really consider the subject you will be rendering on the black paper. I think the best pieces for black paper are ones that are chiaroscuro-esque. In other words, they have a stark contrast between light and dark, much like the shell I'm drawing. That's not to say you can't complete other art on black paper, because you most certainly can. I just find that it is best suited for that type of reference. For things like portraits with a black background that do not have the high contrast, I prefer to render it on white paper and then put the black background in as discussed earlier. This will make your portrait pop even more and really create those subtleties in skin tones and fur that you will not easily achieve on black paper. Tip number 5 is also going to be key to using most black papers, and that is to be intentional and work very light-handed. Most of the black papers I have worked with have a limited number of layers you are able to put down. So be intentional with your color selection and work with a light hand to maintain the tooth of the paper for as long as possible. Once it is flattened, there really isn't much further you can go. Using black paper, you learn very quickly how unforgiving colored pencil can be. My 6th tip is experiment with different black papers to see which one works best for you. If you find you're struggling with them all, then you may need to adjust your techniques if you want to use that black paper. If you would like to see a review and comparison on different black papers, list the papers you would like me to use in the comments below. I'm Wendy O'Brien. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on arting. Bye!